You guys ready?
No, but let's do it.
All right. Hot take. I think polos are stupid. I think they're ugly, and I think they're uncomfortable. This is 100%.
Are you telling me?
This is 100% directed at you because I couldn't think of anything. I don't know what your take is, but so let me explain my situation and why I think it's a hot take. And I'm well aware that you and I are gonna have to butt heads on this. But my summer camp, our uniforms were a polo. I had a moment. I was just like, do I ever wear polos? And then I realized why I don't wear polos is because I associate with my summer camp. We had to wear a polo, and it had like the collar and everything, but it got itchy, and then I would get a sunburn, and then I had to pop it up like a douchebag. Do I censor that? Anywho, dang it, heated. But anywho, yeah, I just think they're so uncomfortable. I hate how like they like catch at like the freaking like the sleeves, and then
They don't have to.
They don't have to, but I just don't like them. I also don't like the collars and like the freaking button ups. I have a lot of things to say. I did not know I was this heated about it. I'm sorry, but that's my hot take.
Well, like, I mean, I wear polos because I like to dress like a frat bro in the summer.
Do you think it looks good? Because
I like the look of it.
you like the look.
But, like, also, I had to get rid of my red and blue polos because it reminded me of, like, being a Target or Walmart employee.
Were you ever either?
No. But, like, if you wear khakis and a red polo, you
Right.
work at Target. Even if you're not
Even if you don't.
I think it's also. I think it also shifts that. I mean, was it red polo plus khakis? State Farm
Yeah.
also has
Oh,
taken
yeah.
that
Also
over.
Staples.
Staples as well.
Right. Yeah.
They might
Yes.
wear black polos now.
You guys just need to get new. The polos and the khakis are getting old.
It is like, it's kind of the shirt of the man. Like, you know, you wear a polo because.
We're skipping this part because it's really boring and I don't want you guys to listen to this.
That was not a clap for that, but you guys ready for the next
Worked out,
part?
yeah.
Okay. Sup, guys. So today's topic, I want to talk about the idea of worship and COVID. So all three of us, I think, I was reflecting a little bit and then talking to Tyler as well, because Tyler's been there since day one, actually. But collectively, we all have very different experiences that I think kind of come together and kind of paint the picture of like how worship has shifted over the course of this pandemic season. So for those of you guys who don't know, I'm more of like a video producer. I guess that's my title officially. And I've created the videos over the course of the past few months. Tyler is I don't actually know what you play. I'm so sorry.
I've played the bass, I've played the guitar, I've played the piano over the past year. So I
Even
think
sung
that's it.
on separate occasions.
Really?
I
Not
did.
at FBC.
Oh, no.
Oh,
that's
right.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I've led
Yeah.
worship a couple times at different places.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I sung here. Yeah, and so, yeah, mostly just a musician in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, filling in spots.
And then Chris, you mainly
Slap at the bass.
slap it a
Except
bass.
I don't actually slap. I just play bass.
Play bass, yeah. So I think for this episode, I just kind of want to ask you guys, like, we've all had different experiences, and I think the word worship has come up a lot in our podcast episodes where we all have very different feelings about you guys as musicians, me as a casual listener. But I feel like this pandemic has really shifted and kind of like warped the word of worship, right? I know some might say like warp is like a negative connotation, but I think it's changed a lot, right? So I just kind of want to ask you and your experiences, like before the pandemic started, like what was worship to you guys? I guess that's where I want to start off with.
I can go first, Roy, too.
Yeah.
So I think I have played in a worship team pretty regularly for probably 4 or 5 years now. Wide variety of teams. Yeah, pretty much at least once a week, if not more. Yeah, for youth, for college, and for FBC worship, and then of course some high school events more recently.
Right.
As like a leader, but yeah, so like worship has always been like an important part of like my church experience, how I see God, and those kind of things. And so before the pandemic, I was playing in both our normal congregational worship and our college ministry. And then occasionally we'd fill in, and there's a high school event that happens at a different campus that a friend of ours runs. And so Chris and I both went up there a couple times, and then I've played through the pandemic up there as well outside. But so a lot of it was just the grind, college every other week, and then Sunday morning worship playing usually at least twice a month or something like that. So very regular. We've gone through a couple worship directors, and so like our leadership has changed a little bit. But yeah, mostly being a musician, just kind of reading the chord chart and making it up because I didn't practice on Sunday
Don't
morning.
imitate this guy, please.
Yeah, practice.
My music degree.
Oh, that's what that's supposed to sound. Yeah, so it was very normal run of the drive. What I think a lot of worship musicians experiences, coming to rehearsals and and playing the part, with a very kind of eclectic team in some senses.
Yeah.
Not really knowing what's going to happen, right? Yeah.
Right.
Very-
You said something that was very interesting that I wanted to pinpoint and like kind of highlight was like you didn't know what was going to happen because in the beginning, like I feel like you've witnessed the most changes for worship in my opinion at least. Like you've done it in front of a camera, you've done it live and everything, but like you said, there were like weeks like for the high school when you talked about like you didn't even know if you were gonna play worship.
Yeah, and so that was I can touch on that too. So
Yeah.
like that was another thing of kind of contention. So there was always moments where we had to get COVID tested, and so we'd always be like, oh, like what happens if we test positive, right? Which like that's a good thing. We shouldn't carry the virus around and kill people. But like there was always moments like we prepare a set and then we'd be like, all right, let's hope we don't have coronavirus. Luckily, no one ever tested positive, and last week was our last week, and so there's always moments of like, oh, we're doing all this preparation for it. Maybe this event will get canceled, and maybe it'll rain because it's outside and we can't have it. And so it was at a boarding high school, and so it was always like, will the school allow us on campus? Will students come? Can students come to this event? And so there's always these moments of we never know what's going on. Like it was difficult.
Right.
And I know Chris came up one time, I think, during the pandemic. So I mean, I probably maybe 20 times went up, maybe not even like 15, something like that. Played a set up there, and got to work with some high school musicians, and just enjoy some live worship, which is something
Right.
we don't get a lot of.
Yeah. Right.
I want to highlight that too because I mentioned cameras, but was this the only situation where you actually performed in front of like human live like audiences during the pandemic?
Yeah, the whole time. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of any other. Yeah, so only this. So yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point actually.
Yeah.
Which is a very different experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we expand on that? Actually, you talked about as the pandemic went on. I know we talked about pre-pandemic, and then pre-pandemic, of course, we were in front of a live audience. There was like a church congregation and everything. But then the shift to cameras, right? I feel like both of you. If I may highlight you, Chris, your first experience playing in front of a camera and without a live audience. What were kind of like? How did you feel about that? Like, in terms of like, is that worship, right?
Yeah, I mean, I struggle because I always feel awkward in front of a camera, even like doing this or like recording sermons or teachings or whatever. So to me, it's like, okay, the camera's on, I automatically feel differently. I don't know. So to me, I'm like taken out of the zone, the worship zone, even though it's not a thing.
Okay.
But yeah, it was like, it didn't feel too different, I guess, because I'm used to recording to some extent. So to me, it was like, okay, I got the in-ears in, like, I usually can't hear what the congregation's doing or singing anyway.
Right.
So, like, all I hear is, like, my bass and the click tracks and, like, whatever else is working that day.
Whatever noise.
Whatever noise is coming through. Yes.
So, like, it was kind of weird, but I guess I was so focused on the screen or the music anyway that, like, I don't even notice half the time that there's not a congregation there until I look up. But it does feel kind of, like, empty
Right.
in there at the same time.
Can you speak on a little bit on that too? Because you're the only, like we already said, you're the only one that performed in front of a live audience, right? Which I think drastically changes. But was that shift also there for you when they shifted from live audience to like recording in front of a camera?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very different. I mean, I was here when we had closed for a while, and we had done some online worship. But we didn't actually record any worship videos, and so like I wasn't really involved in that. This was the beginning of beginning of coronavirus, like quarantine, stuff like that. So like we didn't. We just like chosen some worship songs and put in some videos that like for the congregation to watch. So then we started recording actual worship sets with a 5 or 6 person team. Of course, like it was maybe June or July of last year, and like we didn't know anything about the pandemic. Testing was still not available, and so like of course there's all like the stresses, anxieties with that as well. Very small team in a small space. Like we were like, is this okay? There was definitely some mandates. We didn't want to break any rules and stuff like that. And so like there was that added on to the fact of like, oh, we're in a small room. Like there's a lot of technical issues. Like we got to figure out, does the mic work? Does the camera work? And as you were saying, definitely like there's moments where you can get in the nit and grit of the music and pay no attention to what's going on. But then there's moments where you go like, oh wow, like this is weird.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely just very like bouncing off the back of the wall. Which like I've definitely played a lot of worship sets where like there's very little congregational interaction, and you like have that feeling of like, hey, I don't know what's going on.
Nobody cares what I'm
anyways.
doing.
Yeah.
Like,
So like that's not a new feeling, and like as is the life of a worship player. But yeah, so it's like it was a very different feeling of like I'm connecting through to these people through this lens over time, and so like it was just like there was still that connection, but it just felt like very different. Yeah, and then there's a lot of technical things that you can really focus on to, I don't want to say distract yourself, but in ways like actually distract yourself, probably not intentionally, but
yeah.
there's a lot of nit and grit you can get into to not think about the fact that there's nobody in the room.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of trust too. Like you have to trust that this is going to impact somebody, that God's going to speak through this. Because like that's hard for me because I don't know, I'm impatient, I guess. But like I know like I can think of music videos I've watched where like I get emotional, or like videos or sermons or whatever. Like it can happen, but you don't get that immediate. Like you don't see people like crying and flailing their arms like in the congregation.
It's very interesting that you guys talk about like congregational reaction, right? So as I mentioned earlier, I am the casual, like, hi, I come to worship and everything. And I think for me, a lot of this season has been really rough in terms of like the word of worship, right? Because when I think worship, I associate with a live band that's like leading and guiding me to worship God and focus in on God. But upon like becoming like essentially the producer, gone were the emotions, gone were like, what am I doing this for? And it was filled with the focus on the technical aspect. So I have to say, this has been a very dry season of worship for me, but you talked about music videos that made you feel things. For the two of you guys, have you guys recently, was there a moment in like any of the recordings or anything that you've witnessed that kind of gave you that feeling of just like, oh, like connecting with God through that worship, like in a digital aspect, I guess, if that makes sense?
Like while we were recording or while we were watching?
I guess like, yeah, to expand it over there, because I think for me it's been very hard to see God through these types of worship videos, to be very honest, right? And I have the privilege of witnessing you guys record live, but I can count, there was only one instance where I really felt God's presence, and I actually started crying when you guys were playing.
Really? Was it Song of Repentance?
Song of Repentance.
Yeah.
A song I really recommend, but that was like, it was you guys considered it a bad take, but it was the one take I cried.
Yeah.
And like I'm like I was like quietly sobbing to myself as I'm trying to switch the cameras. But I was just like, I think that was like a moment where like I was really reminded, like, in the midst of all like the technicalities and all that, like God is still there. But I guess like what was an experience that was kind of similar for you, or like where you saw God in this digital age of worship?
Yeah. I mean, I know we were doing Come Thou Fount one week, and that's one of my favorite hymns already, but I don't know why, but like I was actually like, I don't think I was crying, but I was like borderline crying while playing the bass, and I was like, I'm being recorded, I can't like start sobbing, which was another weird thing I don't usually think about, but I was like, I don't know, it was like the words came to life. Maybe it's because I was familiar and didn't have to think about like the tech and the notes and everything, and it's just like, oh, I know this song a lot. I know this song well.
You can say a lot.
I speak good.
I speak good.
I don't know what that was about, but yeah, I don't know what it was. It just like spoke to me, and I was just like, wow, God is so good. And there are these. I always have these moments where the words speak to me, which is cool because I don't get to think about the words a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's tough for me, is because when I'm singing, it's one thing, but when I'm playing the bass, I never get to think about the words.
Yeah. I like playing. I don't know if I ever was like breaking down in tears, but that's not really.
It's not. Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah.
But there's definitely been some moments, I can't think of any specifically, but there's been moments of like, wow, like this is good. We're doing this for a reason. Like, this is not just we're recording a video. Like, we're leading a congregation to, hopefully see God through this. But yeah, I mean, it's so easy to not think about that. Like, there's so many other things. I could literally think about anything, right?
Yeah. And sometimes I am, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Like, or being like, what's going on over there?
Right.
Like, ooh, Chris, a little flat there, sailor.
Fretless life.
Fretless life. But like going and like watching our worship videos is very difficult because a lot of times it's like, ooh.
Yeah, I can't not criticize and like
Right.
nitpick.
And so like, and it's like a part of me goes like, I just like click into feedback mode, like, okay, like let me sit down and like write the feedback so I can send it to people and be like, I think this is what we should do. I think we should improve here. But like watching or listening to like worship music, I like try to intentionally listen to music or like I sit down, put on my headphones, and like that's all I do. I don't do anything else. Because a lot of times I find myself like passively listening to music, which is fine. I love music.
Right.
But then I'm like, I'm not really enjoying this beautiful art, right? So then I usually try to like sit down and just like enjoy music, especially when it's beautiful outside. I'll go like sit outside and listen to music, and it's great. It's super reflecting and just like. But I haven't done that in a long time, partially because it's been really cold and like school and like everything is like super stressful.
Yeah.
So I go like, it's fine. I'll just listen to music while I do this. I'm like, oh, new song, cool. I'll just put it on, and I'm like, oh, like that's. So I've definitely been missing that. Right? And like when there's a live congregation, you get some of that response back. But yeah, definitely just like that self-reflecting of music I've just like not had. And I've been driving less, and that's another piece of it too.
Oh, you like listen to a lot
Yeah,
of music when you
I
drive.
always listen to a lot of music when I drive, and like it's much more. I can kind of like shut my brain off and like drive and like think about the music and stuff. So yeah, I mean that's a part of it that definitely I've been missing as well. It's like that individual worship.
Right.
Yeah, because it's so easy when you're in a congregation too to like just like forget about it and focus on either participating in congregation, be like, what are they doing over there, and like really kind of get into it. And of course, my brain while listening to music will sometimes goes like, oh, sick bass line, nice. But then I can also kind of turn that off and just like enjoy the music.
Right. I mean, I think it's safe to say that I'm very excited to like not be like producing or recording. I don't know. This just made me think like when was the last time I actually like got to sit or like got to just worship, right? I've just been kind of like doing the whole like working aspect, and I think it's maybe if that's a taste of like what you guys feel like playing on stage and everything. I don't know, just made me think a little bit. It was just like, oh, like it made me a little sad. Made me a little sad for this year. But
when I was directing the choir, there was like, I think it was after New Year's or something, but it was like the orchestra's off that day, the choir's off that day. I'm not on a worship team, and I got to just like go to church and just worship, and I was like, this is so like renewing.
right,
I don't know. That's the age-old thing.
renewing.
Yeah, like you do too much and burn out.
Yeah.
What?
Burnout.
Who's that?
I know the
Burnout.
I know how you feel about the word burnout, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely been a dry season. I mean, it's been, and it's something I love so much too. I freaking love music so much,
same season.
I
especially
wonder.
worship music.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways it's been relying less on worship, like traditional worship, and seeing God in other ways for me.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it's still in some ways the worship music and that, but I guess we're like life as worship, and like plus I've been like listening to podcasts and reading books and just like experiencing life in new ways for the past year, and I think I've just been seeing God in a lot of different ways than I normally
Right.
did when it was like go to church on Sunday, play the bass, sing Oceans, you know.
I really like that point, Chris. Like that actually. I'm feeling very convicted over here because I think it was like the idea, like you said, like that was an avenue and like point that we found God, but now that's been kind of dry. It's like where has God been in other places? And I think it just makes me, in a sense, I feel like that question is just eating away at me. It's like, Sam, where have you seen God?
Yeah.
In other ways, and I don't know how to answer that right now. But yeah. But with that, thank you guys honestly for like kind of sharing. I've always wondered, kind of your sides of the stories because I think you guys can relate easily because one, you guys are on stage and you guys chit chat all the time. But then me in the back, I'm with Adam, who is just on TikTok, and then there's me. But yeah, I hope you guys. I hope you guys enjoy a little bit of insight, kind of into like worship leaders, and also a bit of the casual listener / video producer. But yeah, hope you guys have a good one. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you want to check out some links to some other videos, there's some right here. They're all great. Don't ask the people who watch them, not me. If you scroll down below, there's some show notes that gives our sources and other notes about our episode, as well as all of our social media and places you can watch and listen to us. Make sure you check it out. Make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps me out because I'm a narcissist, so please do that. Thanks, guys.